Hello everyone, this is Satyajit Pattnaik and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's topic is going to be SQL for data science. We shall be learning what exactly is data science, how SQL is going to be playing a vital role in the field of data science and some related topics. So this is how the overall timeline looks like. We have introduction to data science. We'll be understanding what exactly data science is, why SQL is needed in data science, what is SQL, what are the basics of SQL, and we'll also have a hands-on session. And when we deep dive into the third topic, what is SQL? This is the detailed SQL timeline. We'll talk about the introduction of SQL, what are the table basics and selecting data, statements and queries, and what are some of the advanced queries and some sorting results and joins. So we'll try to learn each one of them. Before that, let's try to understand what exactly is data science, and slowly we will try to understand SQL is going to play a vital role in data science. Now, this is how the data science looks like. And as a data scientist, you should have all these qualities like data engineering, scientific methods, mathematics as a prerequisite, statistics, advanced computing, visualization, hacker mindset, domain expertise, and etc. etc. So all these characteristics form a data scientist. So this is all about data science. So SQL plays a vital role in the sense we visualize whatever we are working on currently in data science, be it a group by query or something like that. What we do is we visualize the SQL query in backend, and then only we apply our logic in the codes. That is the reason SQL plays a very vital role. Let's try to understand what exactly is the learning path for a data scientist. Now, data scientist follows this particular learning path. It starts from the business understanding phase, where domain knowledge comes into picture. Domain knowledge plays a very vital role in business understanding, because only when you have a domain expertise, then only you will be able to take some decisions. Right, selecting the right types of problem to solve, because when you're dealing as a data scientist, you might have to deal with your customer specific teams, you might have to deal with your higher management, so you might get a lot of issues from their side. So selecting the right types of problem to solve, prioritizing them is going to be a vital role for a data scientist. Picking success measures, collection of data is one of the most important topics. Collection of data, because formulating the data, converting the data into from unstructured format to structured format, collecting from various data sources or from various teams, combining them together is a very painful work. Model building is still a very simpler work in terms of the bandwidth. Like I would say, it's very tough to collect the data as compared to model building part. Okay, so collection of data comes into picture in this particular phase, where you might have to get data from different data sources. It can be a flat file, it can be a Oracle database, it can be a MySQL database. So here your SQL knowledge will definitely be helpful. Preparing data, now how data has to be prepared, unstructured to structured, which columns to use, which columns not to use, all these decision making skills will be coming into this particular section. Then understanding the data, getting data insights, you will have to do some kind of analysis, and using some visualization tools you will maybe achieving this particular step of understanding data. After the initial insight building stage, then comes your feature engineering steps. Feature engineering is nothing but selection of features. Out of 10 features, which are important, which are not. Is gender helping you to, in a particular example like churn prediction model, where you have multiple features like contract type, gender, location, what is the age of the customer, as in how much old is he in the company, etc etc, kind of questions come into the picture. You have to do a proper analysis in this particular phase, and you will have to get to come to a conclusion that which features are going to be important for this problem. So feature engineering is very important as well. Then comes your model building, exploring models, finding rapid insights, evaluating models. All these are a part of the model building part. We'll not be talking about these particular steps in this video. And then comes your model deployment. So after model deployment and this model iteration, I would say from this particular phase, from feature engineering till the model deployment phase, is a bidirectional phase, because you keep on building n number of iterations of models, keep on improvising the models, then deploying it on the production. When something goes wrong in production, if the accuracy deteriorates, you again come back to the feature engineering steps with new data, and again retrain the model and do re-feature engineering and all those things. Okay, this is going to be a very generic learning path for a data scientist. And this is one of the biggest confusions. What is the difference between AI, ML, DL, and DS? We have already covered this particular topic in one of our previous videos. I'll share the link in the video itself, in the description as well. But this is how the difference between AI, ML, DL, and DS looks like. AI is basically human intelligence exhibited by machines. It's a field of research, or you can say you achieve AI by various mediums. Machine learning is one of the medium to achieve AI. Now there are different other mediums as well, like natural language processing, computer vision, robotics, machine vision, speech to text, text to speech, etc., etc. Areas or subsets are there by which you can achieve AI. So ML is going to be a part of it. ML is a subset of AI. Then comes your deep learning. Deep learning is also studied under ML. It's a further subset of ML. And data science, the study of data, building insights, gathering collection of data, gathering of insights, all these kind of tasks comes under your this particular data science topic. So in simple terms, study of data is going to be your data science. Okay, to gain insights into data through computation, statistics, and visualization. This is going to be your overview. What exactly is machine learning? It's a type of AI that provides computers with the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. ML focuses on the development of computer programs that can teach themselves to grow and change when exposed to new data. Okay. Now, why do we need ML? Why it's growing these days? From the past 5 to 6 years, it has been coming into the picture, and many people are following the trend. Many people are entering the field of data science. Now, why data science is applicable? Why do we need machine learning in the current scenario? The volume of data collectively is growing day by day. The data production is almost 44 times greater in 2020 than in compared to 2009, 11 years back. Every day 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created, and this statistics is based on the previous year. So it definitely there might be some changes in the figures, but every day 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created. Quintillion is nothing but 10 to the power of 18 bytes, if I'm not wrong. Data is clearly doubling in size every 2 years. Machine learning is a technique in which computers learn from data to obtain insight and help in knowledge discovery. Okay, now let's try to understand the various applications of machine learning. There are multiple applications, and we are using it since ages. I would say since last 4 to 5 years, right? Amazon recommendation system. Many people might have already seen, when you buy some mobiles, you also get a recommendation that people who bought this also bought this, right? And we often tend to click on them, and we often buy it as a package. So that's basically your Amazon recommendation engine. Google Maps, Facebook recognition based on a technique called as deepface, Apple Siri, Google Translate, Netflix recommendation system. Many of you might have already encountered that when you create your first account in Netflix, it asks for 3 movies, right? And based on the genre of those movies, it keeps recommending you. Okay, this is how the recommendation engine is built. And obviously the backend is nothing but statistics and machine learning. Okay. Now, these are some of the types of application on a very overall point of view. The different types of machine learning would be unsupervised, supervised, and reinforcement. Now, supervised learning is nothing but it's when you deal with the label data, you know what exactly needs to be done. Let's say you are given some images and you are told that you have to classify between cats and dogs, or maybe you are given some data of your previous 10,000 patients, that whether they are diagnosed with cancer or not. So based on that data, you can prepare a model which will be able to predict whether a new patient is going to have cancer or not. So these kind of problems are already known. So the labeling of data is already done. The labeling means basically understanding what exactly needs to be done. Your y variable, are you aware of it or not? So that's going to be a supervised learning. Unsupervised, when you are not aware of what needs to be done, let's say the same problem, let's say fraud detection. you have multiple transactions and you don't know which one of them is fraud, which one of them is non-fraud. These kind of problems, you don't know exactly, how many types of how many types can you divide the data into. So all these kind of problems comes under your unsupervised learning. Concepts like recommender system, clustering issues, dimensionality reduction also comes under your unsupervised learning. Now when it comes to reinforcement learning, it is nothing but it's a feedback based learning. Robot navigation, learning tasks, game AI, all these kind of use cases comes under your reinforcement learning, which I'll definitely cover in one of my next videos. Today's video is very limited to SQL, so let's try to understand what is the application of SQL. Now this is also a very important slide, again regarding the career opportunities. I have already discussed in one of my videos. I'll share the link again in the description below. So these are some of the careers to explore in the field of data scientist, data engineer, machine learning scientist, BI analyst, BI engineer, and etc. etc. Okay, you can go to that particular video and have a look. Now let's jump on to the main topic. What exactly is SQL? Now SQL is used to communicate with the database. The full form of SQL is structured query language. It's a standard language for relational database management systems. These statements are used to perform tasks such as update data on a database or retrieve data from a database. Some common relational database management systems that use SQL are Oracle SQL, Sybase, Microsoft SQL Server, Access, Ingress, etc. So the common commands in SQL are going to be select, insert, update, delete, create, and drop. Most of your queries are roaming around using these keywords. Okay. Now, SQL programming can be used to perform multiple actions on data such as querying, inserting, updating, deleting, and extracting. We'll try to see each one of them. Let's try to go ahead and understand what is the table basics. Now, a relational database system contains one or more objects called tables. The data or information for the database are stored in these tables. Tables are uniquely identified by names and are comprised of columns and rows. So only when you understand the basics of SQL, which contains columns and rows, because ultimately when we jump onto the data science part, we deal with a lot of Excel sheets and CSV files and all those things, right? So we take help of Pandas library to read those files. So there is a concept of rows and columns. Okay, so there can be certain scenarios where you need to do some kind of group by or some kind of you want to calculate the mean or calculate the sum of any values. So definitely SQL as a fundamentals it will help you. Definitely when you have a very good understanding on SQL, you can easily capture Pandas libraries. Okay, let's try to understand. This is a sample table called as employee. It has employee name, employee ID, manager name, and division. Okay, now, obviously, the employee name Santosh Das has no manager name. That means he might be the employee in the highest hierarchy, or maybe he might be a CEO or somebody, something like that. This is just an example data. We'll definitely try to create this table and we'll see how the queries work in the hands-on session. But before that, let's try to understand the basics. Okay. So after the table basics, once your table has been created, the next topic comes your selection of data. Select statements is used to query the database and retrieve selected data that matches the criteria. Now here's the format of a select query. Select column 1, comma column 2 from table name where condition. So let's try to understand the query is pretty simple, right? Let's say here we have created a table called as employee. Now, if you want to only select employee name and employee ID, your query will look like select employee name, comma employee ID from employee. Now, if you want to select, I want all the employees whose employee ID is greater than 903. In that case, it will be select employee name, comma employee ID from employee where employee ID greater than 903, right? So the where clause is an optional clause which specifies which data values or rows will be returned or displayed based on the criteria described after the keywords. So these are some of the important parameters which is used in where clause. Equals to, greater than equals to, lesser than equals to, not equals to, like, etc., etc. So there can be some other operators like in, not in. We will see each one of them on a very high level. Okay. Now, let's try to understand and take some examples and understand. The like pattern matching operator can also be used in the conditional selection of the where clause. So let's say you want to select all the employees whose first name starts with S. So you can write your where clause as where first name or where employee name like S percentage. That means your first letter should be S and the rest is percentage. That means it can take any value. Okay. So it is mostly your percentage is used as a wildcard to match any possible character that might appear before or after the characters specified. Let's see if I go back to this particular example and let's say I want employee names who has a small a and h together in center, any employees. Okay, so if you query this, your query will look like select star from employee where employee name like percentage ah percentage. Okay, let's say you want some employees which whose name starts with r and ends with o, then where employee name like R percentage O. That means your first letter should be R, your last letter should be O, and in center it can be percentage. It can take any combinations. Okay, so your output will be the second row. Ramesh Sahu, 902, Rakesh Das, and 1. Okay, this will be your output. So this let's say this SQL statement will match any first names that start with ER. We have already discussed this particular example from table name where first like something percentage. When you want to match any last names that ends in a S where last like percentages. Okay. And when you want to match the exact value, it will be where something equals to something. Okay. Anyways, we'll take an example and try to understand. This is also one of the sample tables. Before moving ahead, let's try to create this table and see. So for the demonstration purpose, I'm using MySQL Workbench. To download MySQL Workbench, I will be sharing the link in the description below. So I have already installed it. So let's see how many databases do we have. We have all these databases. TestDB is my database. So let's take the help of the predefined queries. I have already saved all the queries. I'm just reviewing all these. So let's say I want to use this is the command for creating a database. So I'll not use this because I have already created a database. Okay. I'll try to use test underscore db. Okay. If you don't use test underscore db, if you want to query some table, you should query along with your database name like this. Select start from test underscore db dot table name. Let's say your table name is emp info. This is how you should query. Okay, I have 10 rows, but I have already used my database, so I don't have to define this. I can simply run select star from enp info. Okay, now going back to this particular slide, this is how the data looks like. So what we have done is our first step is going to be creating a database. Okay, I'll jump onto this table. So what I have done is create table if not exists. That means if not exists, then only create this enp info. There are 6 columns: first, last, id, age, city, and state. So first, last, id, age, city, and state. So this is how your create table looks like. Now first is a text field, last is a text field, id can be a text field, can be an integer, age also can be a text field, can be an integer, city is a text field, and state is a text field. To define text fields, we have to use varchar. How many lengths can you expect in the first column? How many lengths can you expect in the last column? If you define it as 250, so accordingly your first name can contain 250 characters. Okay, so I have already created the table, so I'll not run this command. After your tables are created, then comes your insertion of data. Now let me move ahead to insertion slide so that you understand. So this is how the insertion happens. Insert into table name, first column, comma, second column, comma, dot, 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 last comma, column, values, this. So you can either do this, or you can also define your column names as well, like this. First, last, ID, age, city, state. So this statement will also run fine. Okay, you can run either this, or if you don't want to mention the column names, that's also fine, because by default it understands that the values are in proper format, they are in sequence. Your first value is your first name, second is last name, then ID, then age, then city, then state. Okay, I have already inserted the data. You can look at this particular slide. The insert statement is used to insert or add a row of data into the table. To insert records into a table, enter the keywords insert into followed by a table name followed by open parenthesis. So you can look at this particular example, and this is how your insertion happens. Example, insert into table name, first slash your column names, values, this. Okay. Without this also it's possible. Okay. So I have already run it. So let's go back to the previous slides and see how the selection happens. Let us run the basic command, select star from table name. Now I'll just maximize this so that it's visible. Okay, this is how the table looks like. Now let's go ahead to the next table and try to understand these queries. Now what will be the output of this first query? The first query's output will be it select first last city from employee info. Select first last city from employee info. So obviously it will only give me 3 columns, first last and city. Okay. Select last city age from employee info where age is greater than 30. So first last city and age, last city and age where age greater than 30. That means it will show me all the columns with age greater than 30, age greater than 40. Okay, this is how your queries look like. Now let me query the basic table again. Let's say I want to create, I want to select the rows whose first name starts with J. So where first like J percentage. Okay. Where last name contains A. So this is how your query will look like. Let's say last name ending with N, percentage N. Okay. Let's say last name containing O and N. O percentage N. So I don't know whether it is ending or not. It has told that O and N. Okay. There can be two scenarios here also. It can be O and N, it can be N and O. Okay. Or last like N percent O. Okay. So or command and command, these are also used in SQL. Okay. This or that, this and this. That means, let's say if you want, uh, show me all the employees whose first name starts with J and ends with S and last like S. Right? There will be only one entry. That means it should satisfy both the conditions. Then only that output will be visible. Right? So this is how your select query works. Now we already have gone through creating tables. Creating table is nothing but you can use this particular command for creating a table. You can also ignore this. That's not a problem. Okay. Both are possible. Okay. Create table name in your round parenthesis. You have to define your column names, along with your column names, your data types, whether this is a string or not. If it is string, it is varchar. If not, if it's a integer value, it can be int. Okay. You can also define your primary keys also here. Okay, let's not go to primary keys right now. Okay, these are the basic steps for creating a table. Enter the keywords create table followed by the table name, followed by an open parenthesis, followed by the first name, first column name, then the data type, and so on. Okay. Now the statements might vary minutely when you move from MySQL to Oracle SQL to Microsoft SQL. Okay, minutely, but overall the query remains mostly same. Okay. Let's try to understand what are constraints. Okay, as I talked about primary keys, right? So primary key is nothing but a unique identity. So when tables are created, it is common for one or more columns to have constraints associated with them. Constraint is basically a rule associated with a column that the data entered into that column must follow. So there can be scenarios, uh, you know, uh, so why primary keys are used? Basically, it's a unique constraint. Okay, I mean to avoid duplicacy, to avoid duplicate records, we use primary keys. Okay, so for example, a unique constraint specifies that no two records can have the same value in a particular column. They must all be unique. Okay, the other two most popular constraints are not null, which specify that a column cannot be left blank. Okay, in the same query itself, if you define this as not null, that means this ID is not null. Now, in your insert queries, your third parameter is ID. If you leave it blank, it will throw an error, right? Because it's a not null value. Okay. So this is basically your not null field. What is not null? Okay. So all of these and more will be covered in the future advanced release of this tutorial. So leave it. I'll be talking about the future, the advanced version of SQL, tutorials in the next videos. For this video, we'll keep it very simple to the basics of SQL, which is required for data science. Okay. So creation of tables has already been done. Insertion also is done. Okay. Next step is going to be updation. So updation, as the name suggests, it is nothing but updating a statement. The update statement is used to update or change records that match a specified criteria. Okay, I'll directly talk about the commands here. Let's try to run the basic table. Let's say the basic command is update table name set column column 1 equals to something where command. This is how your update query looks like. You can also see here update table name set something equals to something where something equals to something. If you don't provide your where condition, all the rows will be updated, right? So let's say in this particular table, for this particular employee, let's change the state to Arizona. So update, what is my table name? Emp info set state equals to Arizona, where first equals to John and last equals to John's. Now, if you do this, obviously it will be updated. Now, instead of this, if I just run this entire query, so all the records will be converted to Arizona. If I just update where state equals to California, obviously my John Jones has California, so I think this should also work fine, right? But no, it will not work fine, because what it will do is it will go and select all the rows where state equals to California. That means this one and this one. So both these rows will be updated if we run this particular query. If you want to see, so let's say we run this. See, oh, you are using safe update mode. So let's try to change our update mode. Okay, so sometimes these issues happen. You can simply Google it out, but yeah, I already have the query. I will send you in this description below. Okay, one row has been affected. Let me just update it back to California. Okay, now I'll run this. Two rows will be updated. See, two rows will be updated, right? So this is how your update query works. Very simple. Okay. So these are some of the statement exercises you can practice by yourself when you already have your database created and the tables created and all those things. You can play around with the data, right? Multiple queries are there. You just, run each and every query and you will understand. Next topic is going to be deletion of records. The delete statement is used to delete records or rows from the table. The command is pretty simple. If you want to delete all the rows, delete from table name. If you want to delete certain rows that uh, passes the filter criteria, you will have to use your where clause. Okay, let's say I want to delete all the employees whose age is 45. So what I will do, delete from emp info where age equals to 45. Okay, see, one row has been affected. Now that 45 row is gone. John Jones entry is gone. Okay, so delete from employee where your where clause you can apply, you can pass your where clause. Okay, again your where clause can have equals to, greater than, less than, like, all these things. Okay, now one more important parameter which I just missed, which is your in and not in. Okay, let's say I want to find all the employees whose age is 25. That means age equals to 25, right? Simple. Let's say I want to find all the employees whose age is either 25 or 35. Let's say, let's query, let's see, 25 or 32. Okay, so it can be possible, you can do like this, age 25 or age equal 32, or else if you want to not make it complex, in 25 32. In query also works in this scenario. Sorry, age in 25 32. Okay, if you want to see all the employees whose age is not 25 and 32, not in 25 32. Okay, so this is how your in and not in query works. Now next step is going to be your dropping table. Again, as we are dealing with table names, dropping table also is very simple. Drop table, table name. Okay, the drop table command is used to delete a table and all rows in that table. To delete an entire table including all of its rows, issue the drop table command followed by the table name. Drop table is different from deleting all the records for the table. Now deleting all the records and dropping the table is completely different. Deleting all the record means delete from table name. That means your table will be remaining in the database, records will not be there. Dropping a table means deleting the entire table from the database. Now let's try to drop this table. Drop table, table name. Now let's try to delete it first and then we will drop it so that we understand what is the difference between delete and drop. Delete from. Okay, all the rows has been deleted. Let's say I'll just select this query. Nothing is visible. The table is still there in the database, but there are no records. Okay, now in this table, if I just insert some queries, the table will have some records. Okay, that means the table is present. Now what I'm doing is dropping the table. So that means I'm deleting the table from the database. Running. Now let's say, let's query the table. See, the table test underscore db dot something does not exist. Okay, that is the basic difference between a deletion and a dropping a table. Next comes your sorting. Sorting means there is a command called as order by. Based on order by, you can sort your queries. Okay, let's try to see what is the difference between sorting and how does your order by clause work. Now we have already deleted this table, so let's create it again. Okay, I have created a table again. Sum. Okay, there is some mistake. I don't have a primary key, so that is the reason I am deleting and then inserting. Okay, my data is present now. Now the question is sorting order by. Let's say I want to sort it by age. Order by age. Simple. Now by default, your output of order by is ascending. Okay, that means from smaller value to a higher value. It starts from the lowest value 22 and goes on till 60. If you want to sort it by descending order, so you add your DESC keyword. So select star from table name, order by age, DESC. So that means by default it's your ascending order. So these two queries are same. Even if you add ASC or not add ASC doesn't make any sense. Okay, both the queries does the sorting on ascending order. Okay. Now let's say this particular example is not going to help me in terms of group by, but I'll also try to explain what is group by. Let's try to see. I want to group by age. First age count star. Let me group by first age. Let's remove the order by for a better. Okay. So now let me before running this query, let me explain what is count star. Many of you might not know about count star. If you are dealing with a table, you want to know the entire count of the table. Okay, how many rows does it have? So it gives you 11. Count star gives you your total count of the rows of this particular table. Okay. Now in this group by, what I have done is based on first name and age. Okay. How do we group? So the combination of John and age 45, we have one entry. Combination of Mary and 25, we have one entry. Let's say we will just group by based on age. So definitely what we expect here is for 22, there are multiple records, right? So the count of 22 should be more than one, right? You can see for 22 there are two records, for 60 there are one records. So group by does nothing but it groups by your queries based on your field, whatever field you are passing, based on that it groups together. Okay, now you can also use group by and order by all together. So your output will be ordered by and group by. So that's you can practice those later on, right? Okay, then comes your joins. In most of the real world problems, we might need data from multiple tables. That's where joins comes into picture. Join is mostly used when you deal with pandas data frames, right? You must be using multiple data sources. You must be using multiple Excel sheets. Okay, so what we do is mostly we combine the data and work all together, right? So merge and join plays a vital role in pandas. So in order to understand what exactly is join, you have to understand in terms of SQL. Okay. So these are some of the joins in MySQL. Self join, that means joining the columns from the same table itself. Right join is nothing but all the entries from the right table and the matching entries from the left table. Left join is nothing but all the entries from the left table and the matching entries from the right table. Full join is nothing but the entire table A and table B combined all together. Inner join is nothing but the common entries. Let's say in both the tables, we have a common column called as employee ID. So in table 1, I have 1, 2 and 3. In table 2, I have just 1. So output of inner join will be just 1. Okay. In left join, the total count of your final output will be equivalent to the total count of your left table. Similarly, in right join, the total count of your output will be the total count of your right table. Okay, with extra columns obviously, but total count as in the total number of rows. Okay. Now this is how your left join works. The left join keyword returns all records from the left table, table 1, and the matched records from the right table, table 2. the result is null from the right side if there is no match. Okay, this is the query for left join. Select something comma something comma something from table A, left join table B on a.id equals b.id. That means this is a common column which is present in both the tables. If you don't have a common column, you cannot do a join. Okay. Right join, similarly, all the records from right table and the matched records from the left table. Okay. Select column names from table A, right join table B on a.id equals to b.id. Okay. Inner join again, we'll just change the right or left keyword to inner. That's it. From table A, inner join table B on A equals to B. A.id equals to b.id. Okay. So before this, let's try to understand how the joins work. For this particular purpose, I have already created a table called as project. Okay. Let's see how the project table looks like. This is how your employee info looks like. This is how your project table looks like. Okay. So you can see ID is common. Okay. Okay. ID is common. Now, what is left join? Let's say this is the number of columns you want. Let's say I want all the A columns. Okay. So you can print select A dot star from table A, left join table B on A dot ID equals to B dot ID. The output of this will be all the rows from A. But the main motive of join is if you want to, why are we joining? Because ultimately we want to read certain columns from table A and certain columns from table B, right? So let's say from employee info, I want to read first name, last name, ID, age, and from B column, I want to read the project name. Okay. So let's run this. So this is how your data looks like. All the records from table A and the matching record from table B. Similar query, I will just copy paste. I'll change the left to right. There will be how many out records? There will be 2 records because we have 2 records in the table B. Okay. Similar query in inner join, it will give me 1 output because there is just 1 match. Okay. So this is how your joins work. This is how your joins work. And this is how your left join, right join, and inner join. In parallel, there is something called as cross join also, which is nothing but in this particular slide, your cross join. Cross join nothing but it gives you a Cartesian product. That means all the combinations and permutations of the table. Okay, and not this one. If I just this is how your cross join works. I mean, mostly in real scenarios, we don't much use cross join. Mostly left join or right join or inner join are used. Okay. So this is all about the joins, and here we can conclude the entire session on SQL. There are some advanced queries as well, and there are some advanced topics like having clause or some complex group by queries. All these things you can practice. There is a hacker rank test as well, a very I would say it's from beginner to the intermediate level of test. I'll also share that link in the description below for you to go through. So try to go through that particular practice exam and brush up on your skills, brush up on your SQL skills, and definitely your next step will be going through the data science program. Okay, that's it for today's video. I hope you got intermediate level of understanding on SQL. Thanks for watching. Please like and share my video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.